it almost sucks that we got to wait till next Monday.
Right.
And
that's
see
the
what
mark
comes
of
of
when
this.
wrestling is good is when you're like, man, I can't wait till the next show to find out where this goes.
And that's just when wrestling, is at its peak and is doing what it's supposed to do. So, listen, hats off to WWE, because when they get their stories right, they get their stories right. Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, and real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. Skeener, I genuinely think that we had, and this may be a hot take for some, I think we had one of the better weekends of wrestling. And I mean weekends Friday through Monday that we've had this entire year. That may be a hot take for some. I genuinely tend to believe that because I thought that Smackdown was ironically good. I thought that Crown Jewel Perth was really good. And the follow-up to Raw, need I say that it was the pièce de résistance? It was exactly what I thought I needed, maybe a little sooner than I thought, but ironically right on time. So, Skeener, how are you doing on this wonderful Wednesday, sir?
I am good. Good. We had a little snafu, a misplacement of headphones. Set us back about 20 minutes, so I'm coming in hot, but I'm here.
Yeah.
And you're right. Great few days of wrestling.
Yeah, the headphones did not want to show up to work, but it's okay.
Well, that's the issue. Is they did show up to work, just the wrong one.
Well, you know what? So listen, they need to stop hanging out with R-Truth. And start showing up to the right locations. Where did he show up that one time? The most recent time he was supposed to be.
Well, this weekend he went to Austria, I believe. He got a little lost.
Oh, it was on his Twitter?
Yes.
See, your headphones have been hanging out too much with Ron Killings or R-Truth. I don't know what happened to that, but I do know that the Lariat Lounge is back, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back to, dare I say, one of the best wrestling podcasts in America. We're actually ranked 196 by Apple Podcasts for wrestling podcasts in the United States. And it's not me saying that, just me saying that. It's a lot of people saying that too. So welcome. Glad you're here. If you are enjoying this podcast, you've been with us. I think we're on episode 29 right now. We're about to approach 30. So if you've been listening,
this may be 30, right?
Is this 30? It might be. I don't keep up. I keep 29? Rough drafts in my brain.
This is the big 3-0.
Oh, well, listen, if you guys have been hanging out with us between episodes 1 through 30, if this is indeed 30, because it could very well be. Thank you.
If they are numbered correctly.
I think they are numbered correctly. I think I messed up like one time, but it didn't mess up the sequence. I think I just named 2 episodes the same number and then skipped one. But I went back and corrected it.
Then this is the big 3-0.
Oh, well, hey, listen, congratulations, Lariat Lounge, on turning 30. It's a milestone. Before you look up, next thing you know, man, you'll be 40. And, life will start to slow down a bit and you wonder what happened. But until you get there, hang out with us. We appreciate you here. Skeener, let our friends know where they can listen to one of literally the best podcasts that Apple says is available for professional wrestling.
You're going to find us once a week, at least every week, wherever you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Almost forgot YouTube there for a second. But yeah, we're on all your favorite podcast platforms, wherever you like to listen to things. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. Now free and unshackled from AI content moderation. We are back up and running there. And as always, the inbox is open at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. So don't be afraid to send us a message over there. Interact with us anywhere you can. We appreciate it. And we are hoping to get more and more interaction every week.
Yeah, and we really do appreciate the interaction that you do give us. Any type of interaction is great. Love, hate, just listen. Make sure that you don't gloat too much because the people who are with you might end up turning around and spearing you through the ring and, taking everything for themselves. little bit of foreshadowing there. But hey, if you watch professional wrestling, you already know what's up. So anyway, enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. Skeener, there's so much to talk about here, and I don't particularly intend on talking about every single thing, but I will say this. I've been recapping myself via WWE.com on the Smackdown results, Crown Jewel Perth results, as well as the Raw results, just to kind of give myself a little recap before we start this. And I was just scrolling through the card on each one of these shows. And let me tell you, man, don't see a whole lot of weak spots here. Like even the stuff that would normally be maybe a little weaker to me was still doing certain things that I thought were better than they normally do. But let me get your opinion just overall. Let's start with Crown Jewel. What were your overall thoughts of the card itself, man? I mean, the Perth audience was red hot. They were red hot like the entire weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Monday. They were just on fire. But aside from the post show for Crown Jewel, where I feel like they genuinely tried to make themselves a star and take over the broadcast. What do you think about Crown Jewel Perth, brother?
I mean, I thought it was incredible. Everything delivered. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if you could. I just shudder to think anyone that didn't enjoy that show.
Yeah.
I mean, from top to bottom, from beginning to end, I was thoroughly sports entertained. We got, a really good opener between Roman and Bronson. Then we went into, what was the second match?
The second match, I think it was the women's Crown Jewel.
Stephanie and Tiffany, which was, say whatever you want about the build, but the match itself was awesome.
Absolutely.
Then, of course, it's Cena and AJ, and then you go into Cody and Seth, and the match I'm forgetting. Oh, the women's tag. I mean, those three just awesome. Awesome. And, the crowd being so into it. Seeing the sea of John Cena shirts was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was pretty nuts.
And him and AJ delivering like they did that was the one for everyone that I guess wasn't getting what they wanted from these John Cena matches. I feel like that one was for you.
Yeah, I definitely think that match was absolutely to pluck every single nostalgia feel that you wanted from a match without feeling like a nostalgia match. Like they weren't reinventing the wheel or pulling out all of their classics, but man, like that match was so unconventionally good. Does that make sense? Like it wasn't the type of match that I look back and think that was a 5-star barn burner, slobber knocker, all of your, wrestling isms, type match. But man, like, did they not pull on every single string that just made the kind of kid in me just look at that match and think, man, that's so much fun. Like what move are they going to thieve next? Like that, yep. You know what I mean? Like for the astute out there, for the eagle-eyed out there, Cena was pulling out every trick from every bag that he stole from every one of his rivals over the years. And AJ was doing the same thing, but mainly from his TNA days. And if you weren't noticing a lot of these things, it may have flown right over your head. But I'll tell you the thing that hit me the most, not the most, but the first, was when AJ came out and he had his like old school Styles ring gear on.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was cool. It honestly made me think you should rock that for the remainder of your run. Because it's different. It works. It gives him a nice, fresh coat of paint, but it's actually an old coat of paint. But it works for him. And listen, if he ever decides to cut his hair before he retires and gives us like full retro AJ, I think I might lose it.
Well, I don't know if you're going to get that.
I don't think I'm going to get that.
You were sitting there, I was thinking about, he just kind of said, oh, well, I lost. Not to jump ahead to Raw, but he literally, I think he was just like, I lost. Oh, well, John Cena's good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm about to team with Dragon Lee. Like, not that there's anything wrong with that. Not that I don't like Dragon Lee, but it seems like that really was just kind of a pit stop for AJ, and he's just going to go right back to what he was doing, as if that never happened.
Well, it was a pit
As
stop
if he
for
didn't
Cena.
just put on, as if he didn't just put on a match of the year out of nowhere.
Well, listen, it was a pit stop for Cena. Now, for me, would I classify that as a match of the year candidate? No, I wouldn't. But I think everyone's big board is subjective, right? I wouldn't call it match of the year because that's not necessarily the grade or like the type of match that I would grade. That to me was a really amazing spectacle. I think that it had kind of its own lane that you don't really see a lot of American professional wrestling matches do. And it was, to me, it was incredibly campy in the best way possible. Like, it's literally, how many finishers did each one of those guys take? Like, on one hand, quite a few. Like, on one hand, it's like, if I'm trying to be a wrestling dork, which I'm not, but like some of the wrestling dorks out there would think, well, this devalues the finisher and the finishers don't mean anything. And listen, I'm not really being insulting when I call you a dork. I'm a dork and I'm a nerd too. But some people out there will think that this devalues the finisher because you kick out of every finisher, all these finishers don't matter. Okay, fair. I looked at this match almost like it was in a pocket universe, like it didn't connect with the greater storytelling that the WWE is doing with their matches, right? Sure, I think they've cooled off the finisher a lot in WWE, but not so much that the finisher is not relatively saved for the end of a match and is usually devastating. But this little pocket universe, John Cena and AJ Styles were apparently on Super Saiyan. And they could just take a lot of licks and just keep on ticking. And so it worked for me when I disconnected it from WWE standard continuity. And it was fun for me. It was so fun. I don't think I've had more fun this year, Skeener, watching a single match than I did with John Cena and AJ Styles.
Which is why I say match of the year, because at the end of the day, I'm watching this to be entertained, not to be, I think some people get a little too, I'm not saying you, but there are people out there that get too caught up in wanting to be a critic.
Yeah.
Which, if that's where and how you get your enjoyment, to each their own, I guess. But to me, this is about sitting back, watching it, having fun, and being entertained. And that's one of the matches and moments of this year in which those things have come to the forefront for me. So that's why I put it up there.
I'm with that. I'm with that. And like I said, these things are going to be subjective, and nobody owns the rights to the grading scale for whatever would objectively be considered match of the year. Even on the most,
shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired, Mr. Meltzer.
Hey.
Nobody owns the rights to that. But, everybody's going to have their own subjective, feelings on what constitutes a really great match. And I think that match was incredible. I think it was incredible. And there's not a lot of matches, I think, that operate under those premise, particularly in WWE, which is why if I was putting things on a big board, I think it would only be fair to the other matches to leave that one off. Not because it wasn't a great match, but it almost fits in this category of its own. And I wish that there were more matches that could fit in that category, because it was very unique to WWE's typical match type. And I just wish we had more really fun matches like that. But, WWE doesn't really give us that. They give us more, Street Profits versus the Wyatt Six, which I wish they would just go ahead and win. Like, let's just beat the Wyatt Six and be done. But
well, I mean, they've got a new feud, it looks like. So
yes, and by the way, I thought that the standoff between, I guess we can call them MFT 2.0, and the Wyatt Six definitely drew the fans' adulation, when they squared up. And listen, to be fair, the flashing lights, all of that, great visual for them to. I almost didn't know who they were when they first showed up.
I didn't either in that second time. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know who they were when they showed up. But the fact that, when they showed up the first time, right? That was the first time they showed up was what? With the Wyatt Six standoff, right?
No, so everyone came back to beat up Shinsuke and Sammy.
Okay, right. So that was what at the top of the show?
Later. Yeah.
It was after Cody.
The first few segments. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, they came back out to confront the Wyatt Six later on in the show. That was after the tag match.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, they showed up twice.
Okay. Yeah. That confrontation.
While
was
we're
great.
there, so happy to see my guy Shinsuke back. I don't think he's been back since I came on the show, so I've never got to talk about him too much. But love me some Shinsuke. Happy to see him with the old theme back. I thought that was cool. Good to have him and Sammy go at it again. I was worried the entire time. I was really just, the finish was good. I wanted Shinsuke to win. Knew he wouldn't, obviously. But the whole time I was just thinking, man, can he at least lose to the kick and not the Blue Thunder Bomb? That's all I was asking for. I wanted the win, but I wasn't even asking for that. I was like, man, just lose to the Haluva kick and not the Blue Thunder Bomb.
Listen, it looks like they're setting up the Haluva kick as his setup for the Blue Thunder Bomb now. And the Blue Thunder Bomb be the finisher, which, if I'm being honest, I think with that setup, with the Haluva kick first and then the Blue Thunder Bomb, it is a better sequence of moves than the Haluva kick on its own being the finisher. And I always thought the Blue Thunder Bomb was a great looking move. The fact that it seemed like it was a running joke that he never won with it, that's something else. But yeah, no, listen, I think your boy Shinsuke would have not escaped the Blue Thunder Bomb's vortex if the match did not get encroached upon by the MFTs and one Solo Sikoa. Which one of the Tongans is back that was gone? Was it Tongaloa?
Tama Tonga is the one that has been gone the longest.
Okay, so they're all back now.
Returned not too long ago, but yeah, now everyone's back.
Okay, so now the whole MFT gang is back, and they're going to be going head to head against the Wyatt Six, and I guess Nikki Cross.
Something? Why was Uncle Howdy not there?
So I feel like, and this is a guess here, I'm thinking he must be injured
again. Maybe.
Look, it
was weird that he wasn't there.
Yes, there doesn't seem to be any explanation. I think, and
I thought it was weird when they came out without him, and then I'm like, okay, surely he's going to show up after, but nope. Nikki Cross just kind of took the lead.
Yeah, and listen, I don't know what the deal is with that. This is just me spitballing. I'm certainly not trying to put anything out in the ether, but I gotta imagine he's injured or something. Because is he not able to travel to Australia? I don't know. Maybe.
I have no idea.
I would think if he had a scheduling conflict, that would be kind of crazy. That such a pivotal 2 nights of Smackdown and Raw, which it seems like they planned this on purpose, and rightfully so. If you're telling a cohesive story, then with the MFTs re-debuting as NWO Black and White Sting, you'd want the leader of your faction there. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Listen, I sometimes feel like we give the Wyatt Six more attention than the WWE does. And so it's no surprise that, we're probably considering more about where Uncle Howdy is than WWE is probably considering where Uncle Howdy is. But needless to say, it will be interesting to see a head-to-head between Uncle Howdy and Solo Sikoa, and how these two factions function against one another. I hope that maybe we pivot maybe a bit away from the spooky wookie of the Wyatt Six. So maybe they keep their entrance and do what they do, but I would hate to see them creeping out the MFTs. That just seems like a diluting of the bloodline, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, for sure. Good start. We'll see where they go. But like you said, crowd was really into it. Everyone seems to really like gang warfare, stable wars. And always a lot of moving pieces and parts to play off each other. So I'm excited for now. So we'll see.
Yeah. I could genuinely see maybe Solo and the MFTs versus the Wyatt Six if Uncle Howdy is healthy. And maybe one of the War Games matches. And I've been brainstorming because the results of Monday Night Raw have really thrown a monkey wrench in all of my War Games plans that I have been carrying in my back pocket, Skeener, for months now. And
there's a lot of plans, and
it really does. It really, really does, in the best way possible, because I am certainly not rebuking what happened. I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. But man, it threw some stuff I had working in my head, into absolute flux. So let's go ahead and jump to Crown Jewel, because I think, before we do that, Aleister Black and Damian Priest, last man standing.
Yeah.
So I did not expect a whole lot from this, just because I have genuinely not been super duper invested in Damian Priest and Aleister Black.
Yeah, no one cared about this.
No one really cared about this. But you do this last man standing match, and it's always going to be somewhat interesting, particularly if people are hitting each other with stuff and throwing people onto or off of things. So it's always going to be interesting, like a car crash that you can't look away from. And this match, I thought, was pretty daggone good. And Aleister was very willing to take what looked like some pretty interestingly gnarly bumps. And it worked for the match. But I'll tell you this, man. I personally love me some Zelina Vega. I genuinely do. And to have her injected into this Aleister Black, Damian Priest feud in such a way where she is pleading with Damian Priest to not do whatever he's about to do via throwing Aleister Black off of this elevated platform that they're on, only for Aleister Black to channel his inner insert stage magician here and shoot a fireball Hadouken style in Damian Priest's face. Damian Priest is blinded, and he gets a black mask to put out the flames. And he goes careening off the top of this platform through the tables that are set up down below. It's a pretty interesting, gnarly looking bump, but everyone seemed like they were fine. And the interesting part to me, Skeens, was Zelina's look after the aftermath of all that, right? Where Aleister is looking, and he's got this look on his face, somewhat of kind of like scowl and disdain for Damian, right? But looking over the carnage. And Zelina is holding on to him, to Aleister, hugging him tightly, but looking at Damian Priest like, I can't believe he's actually hurt like that. And she seems kind of hurt by what just happened to him. I have no idea what direction this is going in, but I am such a big fan of Zelina Vega, and the fact that they've added her in this way. I love seeing couples on the screen, and Zelina and Aleister have always been an odd couple to me, but I've seen video of them when they're not, doing the wrestling stuff, and he's a pretty interesting guy, and they seem to be a great fit for one another. So I'm really curious and anxious to see what it is that they do on the screen with these two.
Yeah, it's nice to have, I guess, another dimension for the Aleister Black character, because, once you debut and once you do kind of his whole spooky brooding routine for a couple weeks, it had already started to fall kind of flat for me.
Same here.
So just having this new element kind of injects life into it. And I think, like you, that's the part that excited me the most. Finish was obviously really cool. And you're right, anytime you get these car crash matches, they'll be good and entertaining, especially for the crowd there. But yeah, the main takeaway for me is we've got this new element here for not only this feud, but for Aleister Black, and it gives him something new, makes him a little more interesting, for lack of a better word, and gives Zelina something to do, and hopefully injects some new life into this. But yeah, I took her looks as like very conflicted in that.
That's the word.
She definitely was not, or at least the way she was selling it to me, she did not intend to be used like that. She
Agreed.
was out there legitimately, and her dastardly husband took advantage of her, and we'll see which side of the coin she falls on, and if we'll have some conflict between them, and we'll just see where it goes. But yeah, that's another thing, another great development for the future coming out of SmackDown.
I agree, and I think your assessment of that, Skeena, was spot on. Like, that was, you said what I was trying to get out. But yeah, she definitely appeared like that was not her intention to have that happen. And Aleister just took full advantage of the situation and just took freaking Damian Priest out and finished it. And yeah, she looked very conflicted. Like, she's holding her man because she's 1,000% in his corner, but she is maybe not okay with what just happened. And it's a very interesting dynamic. And we've had two other couples on the screen this year within the last month, right? So it will be interesting to see what WWE does with this angle a third time and how they add a new wrinkle to it. But I think that what we've got so far is lending to something that will be very interesting. And ironically, Zelina Vega will be the most interesting linchpin of this entire thing. How she plays this, what her role is in this, I think it'll be very, very interesting moving forward. So, Crown Jewel Perth came on at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Like I am a man of my word, and I did not watch this live. Skeena, what time did you get up? A, and B, what time did you actually watch this PLE?
What day was that?
Saturday.
Did I get up Saturday? Probably around 11 a.m. Central Time, because that's when the college football games start here.
Okay.
So I was up around 11. I watched the show at, I think I started at like 9:30 p.m.
Yeah.
I had, for the most part, remained unspoiled, so that was nice.
I didn't spoil anything for you, did I? I don't think I did. I don't think I said anything about the matches.
No, you didn't. I just, you try to stay off social media, but I couldn't help myself looking at some of the stuff from the football games, and now that it's an ESPN thing, I got ESPN'd about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah, listen, I got a story later on about something getting spoiled for me that I was absolutely 1,000% not happy about. But it didn't happen on Saturday.
Of Raw? That's what got spoiled for me, because I forgot it had happened, and I woke up and opened Instagram, and there it was.
Yeah, dude, that is what got spoiled for me too. And I was sitting here in my podcast room.
I feel like a lot of people got spoiled on that.
Yeah, I was sitting here in my podcast room. I was doing something else. I think I just fixed some dinner. And I came up here to get on the computer, and I was on YouTube. I was looking for something to watch while I was eating my dinner, right? And I clicked away from YouTube, intending on pulling up Netflix, you know what I'm saying, and turning on Raw. And then something else came across like my YouTube feed, and I clicked on it. I watched like a few minutes of it, and I was like, nah, I'm going to go ahead and, turn on Netflix, right? And go ahead and watch Raw. And I clicked the home button on YouTube, right? Which took me back to my homepage, and my homepage refreshed. And it was the thumbnail for Simon Miller's Ups and Downs. And I saw what I saw, and I was like, are you serious? And then I said, are you serious?
Yeah, it's It's rough out there.
It is a rough world when the action is happening on the other side of the planet. Because, boy, like, I get it. The show aired at 8 a.m. Totally understand. Know your audience. Like, that's all I got to say, right? Is know your demographic and who are the people who majority watch your show. And time it maybe around when these people are going to be functioning, right? You typically try to throw your post up for the podcast on Instagram at a certain time during the day to maximize the amount of traffic and people that can get in front of it, because we're paying attention to our demo. We're paying attention to the people who could be listening to this podcast when peak times are, in order to get this media in front of them so that they can then spend time with what it is we posted and maybe direct them back to the podcast. So I just kind of felt like when I saw that thumbnail, I'm thinking to myself, I know, man, I know the show is at 8 a.m. I get it. But if the majority of your audience is in the United States, please take into account the fact that this is on a Monday, right? And most people have not gotten home to watch their Monday Night Raw between the hours of 8 a.m. and like 7 p.m. all across the times spectrum. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, it was. Yeah, I get it, because people want to just be, first with their news all the time. But yeah, it does suck. But I get it has sucked for people in other parts of the world for most of the existence of WWE. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, it was my fault for forgetting and for, conditioning my my addiction to social media to be the first thing I do when I wake up is open my phone and open Instagram. But it was rough that before I could, my brain could wake up enough to remember that there may be spoilers out there. It was the first thing I saw.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that the Australian crowd saw at Crown Jewel Perth was our tribal chief. Well, some people's tribal chief. I would say he's probably still my tribal chief, I think. But the tribal chief, the original tribal chief, the OTC1, Roman Reigns, taking on Big Bronson Reed. This was an incredible match. Before we get into this, Skeener, I have to say, man, I think I went 5 for 5 on this PLE.
You did. You got the one we differed on. I didn't think they'd have Roman take a loss, but they did.
Yeah, they definitely did. I mean, obviously there was some shenanigans afoot, but yeah, they gave it to Bronson. It was a great match. And nowadays Roman doesn't really put on bad matches. So, if you've got a one-on-one with him and Big Bronson Reed, I think you're going to have a good match anyway. But they sold it. It was really good. It was really fun. Roman did what Roman does, but you're not going to overpower the duo of Braun. Like, it's just not going to happen. And they have just kind of shown themselves at this point to be a really fearsome duo. Now, does that continue after Monday? I don't know, because somebody has decided that they were tired of being led and now want to lead. So, we will absolutely get to that, guys. Don't you worry about it. I have been brimming over to talk about this with Skeener and with all of you. So we will get there. But what are your thoughts on Roman versus Big Bronson Reed in our opener to Crown Jewel Perth?
Pretty much exactly the greatness I expected from it. Didn't expect a cricket bat, but that was incredible. Always got to love that, and love how much the fans loved it. But yeah, like what they did, was surprised in a good way that, Roman just took a loss. I mean, obviously there's, reasoning and shenanigans, but it was an Australian street fight, so that's what you got to expect. And but really liked like we were talking about last week and the last few weeks, that Roman is going to be catalyst in a way for how Jey Uso is going to conduct himself in the coming months and his relationship, Jay's that is, with Jimmy,
Yeah.
and how that will develop. And we saw more of that in the, obviously Usos come out, try to help Roman. Some things go down. Jey ends up giving Roman a spear, and that leads to Roman taking a tsunami and the L, and the tribal chief tells his cousins that he doesn't want to see him until Christmas.
Yeah. He laid down the law with them in a very, very realistic family kind of way. Like, I don't want to see you guys until we get together for Christmas. I need you guys to fall back because now they think I can't win by myself. And that is such an interesting angle to kind of go with. This idea that in Roman's attempt to possibly try to reshape Jey, because we don't really know all of Roman's motivations right now, but in what seems like his reshaping of Jey, or Jey's pursuit of another championship, which is making him more like Roman in his commentary after the loss to Big Bronson Reed said exactly what I said before, which is they're going to start thinking I can't win by myself. And I thought that was just such a great beat to kind of lay in there, because it mirrors something that Jey was then saying to Jimmy on a number of different occasions about how we need to fall back. We need to let people handle their own business, that I used to stick my neck out too much. And I got he said it on Monday, as a matter of fact, that,
yes, he did.
He went and got himself injured and he lost his match. And he also had some very choice things to say about Roman. That, Roman is always going to be like this, and he's only going to look out for himself, and that maybe he and Jimmy need to start doing the same. Mm-hmm. And it's such an interesting angle, and I don't know if it's like a misdirect from a storytelling perspective, not necessarily from the perspective of like what Jey is thinking or feeling, but we've been getting this through line where it seems like Roman has been getting into Jey's head, right? And Jey has had this motivation to be at the mountaintop again, which kind of places him in that Roman Reigns mindset. And Jimmy has been seeing his brother kind of descend down this path. And then the confrontation between Jimmy and Roman over the influence over Jey. But now we're getting this beat where Jey is not happy with Roman and how Roman is conducting himself and how he's only looking out for himself. And then he comes back to Jimmy and is like, maybe we should start doing the same, looking out for ourselves. And, no, Jey hasn't outright turned and been like, I don't care about you, Jimmy, I'm doing me. But he's definitely been like low key, but not low key, pointing his finger at Jimmy being like the weak link here, and Jimmy making the mistakes that are holding them back. And definitely like a couple weeks ago, Jey was definitely like getting mad in the moment and saying some awfully cruel things to his brother. And so this story has a few different sets of layers, and I am all the way here for it because the cast of characters here is great and their history is rich, not just as a family, but with all of the original bloodline ties here. Like, this story just has the potential to get super deep and super thick very, very quickly. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And like you were saying, it works because of or not just because of this, but it works so well because of one of our favorite words, equity. We have equity in years in all these characters to play off of all these past events and their relationship dynamics over the years. And this is just another chapter in, these characters that we've seen interact in different ways and being family and best of friends and worst of enemies and there and back again. And this is just another chapter. And It's kind of playing out kind of like we thought it would last week when we were talking about it, but
Yeah.
it's, that's not why we like it. It's really good. And I think it's going to continue to be because WWE's done Bloodline, Roman, and Uso stuff really well, and I don't think that's going to change in the near future.
No, I don't think so either. And I think you hit the nail on the head, Skeens. It's when you build enough equity in the pieces of your puzzle, it's really hard to get the puzzle wrong. And they've just done a really great job of defining who these characters are over years and years and years of good storytelling, to where when I'm looking at these puzzle pieces, it's very easy to see the patterns and the markings on each piece. So I know where the pieces should go. And WWE seems to know where they go too. And that's why I feel like whatever story it is that they're putting together, I think it's just going to fit. And I think it's just going to work. So, this is certainly one of those stories that I am just genuinely along for the ride, because wherever it is that they take us is going to be one that I don't think I'm going to have to worry about speculating too much. So that match is solid. The next match on the card was the Women's Crown Jewel Championship match. Stephanie Vaquer beats Tiffany Stratton straight up, clean as a whistle.
Yeah.
No interference, no nothing, just straight up lost. Which, like we were saying last week, the Crown Jewel matches, if they chose to do that, right? I get how you can have there could be some issues with momentum with certain characters, particularly if you've got a story that's being told. But in this case, there was literally no story. It's literally your classic champion versus champion match. Let's get in there and see who the best is. And in this moment, Stephanie Vaquer, which, we both thought was, that was the clear winner of this match, was going to go over. And she did. It was a really great match. The Devil's Kiss came out. The crowd loved it, as they always do. The Swanton from Tiffany Stratton for Vaquer to raise her knees. You know what I mean? And it's this match was just really, really good. And, I think the right woman won. And, where Tiffany Stratton goes after this, I don't know, because unlike the men's Crown Jewel Championship match, despite the fact that this match really didn't have any story, it ironically fits the story of Tiffany Stratton's title run, which is match after match with no real story, and because it kind of fits into this de facto story for her, it's the first L that she's took in a championship match all year. And it carries more weight than what it would if this match had legs that stood outside of simply who was the better champion, A, and who would win the overpopulated surface space of the Crown Jewel Championship. But it was a good match. Skeener, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I was just thinking about the title and thinking about that visual on Raw of Stephanie coming out wearing it, and that belt literally just covers her more than her entire midsection.
It looked like a bejeweled corset.
That's what I was thinking. It was comically huge. But yeah, good match. And like, people can go back and see our predictions. I definitely didn't think Tiffany would just lose clean.
Yeah.
Because they had seemingly stayed away from that, but she did. And now I'll be interested to see this Friday on Smackdown where they go with her. And if we turn over a new chapter, a new leaf, or where that goes, because I think it's long overdue to get something different happening there. But yeah, really, really good match. I don't want to belabor it, but yeah, they delivered. It was really good. It was great to watch. Like we talked about, there wasn't a whole lot of build. It wasn't something we were hugely looking forward to, but it did its thing, and the crowd loved it. The crowd is still obviously very into Stephanie Vaquer, but they were into Tiffany too. So
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
it was good.
I don't have too much else to say other than really good.
It was a good match, man. It was a good match. What I wonder about, Skeens, where does Tiffany go after this? Like, we
I have no
clearly
idea.
laid the groundwork on Monday for where Stephanie Veque is going, which is interesting. It's an interesting move. I certainly did not see that one coming. But at the same time, I certainly don't mind it because I enjoy the woman who's involved. And so, you know, I think just the intermingling between these two women with her partner around and outside of this whole thing and the greater faction that they are attached to, we have always waxed poetically about them. And so I think that she is only going to serve to benefit from being in their orbit. But when it comes to Tiffany, I mean, who is the next random person, you know what I mean, that she's going to challenge? Because I get that they have been kind of hanging their hat so far on Tiffany Stratton's, you know, Cinderella run this year and how much of a winning fighting champion she's been, you know, just all the standard fare. And I'm just wondering, who do you throw in the wood chipper next? Because that kind of seems to be what's happening here. I don't see any real forward momentum with the people who go up against Tiffany Stratton. You know, so this is genuinely one of those things that I feel kind of bad for when I think about it, because I have no ill will against Tiffany Stratton, but man, does it seem like her title run is like a black hole for whoever is in her orbit, because they have a good to somewhat great match from a technical wrestling standpoint, right? But whatever story is being told, whatever build is around that match is kind of flat. And afterwards, Tiffany moves on because she's still got the championship. And I don't even know what happens to the people who wrestle against her. You know what I mean? I don't even know what's happening with them currently. Who did she wrestle before she wrestled at Crown Jewel?
Nia and Jade.
Okay. Where's Jade Cargill been? Like, I saw her on a backstage segment.
Seen.
I saw her on one backstage segment after that match, and then she's nowhere to be seen. Nia Jax popped up here and there, but she is all but moved on to something that has nothing to do with her. She was in that triple threat before Crown Jewel, right? Yes, because that was the referee botch.
Oh yeah,
that was the last time we saw Jade. So Jade's probably injured, nursing a broken eye or something, and that was the last time we saw Nia.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that was just what 2-3 weeks ago.
That was maybe 2 weeks ago. That was maybe 2 weeks ago.
I mean, obviously I predicted something to happen to set up her next feud, but they didn't give us that, so I guess we'll have to wait till Friday to see. But yeah, I genuinely have no idea who it's going to be.
Yeah.
Unless it's just Julia, which they've seemingly wanted to keep the United States title a thing, but like we're running out of people. Like, unless we're going to move Charlotte or Alexa in, but it seems like they're going to do a thing with what's the tag team name? What do they call them? Sol and
Sol Ruka and Zarya.
Yeah. Why am I blanking on their tag team name?
What is it? Is it Zaruka?
Yeah, Zaruka. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it seems like that's going to be a thing because Charlotte and Alexa, didn't they agree to give them an opportunity?
I think they did.
So it doesn't seem like it's going to be Charlotte or Alexa.
No, they're essentially off the board.
Be? Like we said, is this a call up time or a return time, or I don't know. Something needs to inject some life into that scene. Because
I agree.
Who knows? I mean, I don't think it's going to be Michin. So,
no.
but that's about the only one you have left that we haven't run through.
Yeah. Michin, B-Fab
that are currently available. Oh
yes.
Lord, it may be B-Fab. Honestly, now that you say that,
if B-Fab gets a world title match against Tiffany Stratton, I think I would officially chalk Tiffany Stratton's title run up to. I would chalk it up to the range of poor to all right. Not because of her.
Right now, who else is available, though?
Well, you know you got to do a call-up. Like, listen, that could salvage this whole thing. is if they
Right.
do
It would
a decent
inject
call up.
some life.
Yes, it would inject some life, something fresh into this, right? But it just like, if you're not going to take the belt off of Tiffany, man, don't feed a new call up to the wood chipper. Like that's the, you know what I mean? Like that's the other thing. If you're going to call someone up, I'm trying to think on my last venture into NXT and who are some of the top females that you could call up. Well, you've already got Soruka and Zarya.
Maybe it's JC Jane time. I don't know.
She's still the champ. She's still the champ.
That hasn't mattered before.
True, but you're not going to bring JC Jane up to have her beat Tiffany Stratton and still be NXT champ. Like, let's remind you, Tiffany Stratton is the WWE Women's Champion. So she's the champion that's got the big WWE logo on it. That's technically supposed to be the top championship, relative to the Women's World Championship. So if she loses to an NXT superstar and she hasn't been called up yet, you mean to tell me that the WWE Women's Championship is going to be on NXT primarily? And listen, stranger things have happened, but
we posited Blake Monroe, and that's a possibility too.
I could see that.
How much more time she needs in NXT?
I could see that. There are people who I would like to see get called up before Blake Monroe that I would think would be a better challenge for her that currently do not have an NXT championship. And sad to say, it's not Jordynne Grace. Like, I think Jordynne Grace is a draw, but I think, and this is sad to say, I think they missed their window, the golden window of opportunity with her. Because I think when you call her up, I think she will still be fun to watch, but they could have brought her onto the main roster when everybody was jazzed about Jordynne Grace being around, right? Before the TNA merger was super official. They could have struck while their iron was very hot. And, I watched that match between her and Blake Monroe. It was that cage match they had. And it was a good match. But I feel like there is something that I don't think Jordynne Grace is going to get any better than where she currently is. So bring her up to the roster. She's not a bad wrestler at all. But I don't know why you're keeping her in NXT unless you think she's not ready. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know what you do about that if you don't think she's ready now. Like, will she ever be main roster ready? I genuinely don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those where you almost think it's past time, but
yeah, I could see Lola Vice. I think Lola Vice is someone who, unlike someone like Lash Legend, has not really been placed on the main roster screen a whole lot. Like, she was in the Royal Rumble. What was it, this year?
Was it?
I think it was either this year or last year. Yeah, because she did the whole freaking she did a little thing with Nikki Bella where they did their little body roll thing together. I can't remember if that was this year or last year, but I think she's ready.
If it was Nikki Bella, that would have been this year.
Okay, so I think it might have been this year. She was just an entrant in the Rumble, right? She hasn't been overly exposed. And that match that she had with JC Jane on the last PLE that I watched was really good. She was far better in the ring than I expected her to be. But I don't watch NXT a lot, so that's not saying a whole lot from me. But she was really good in the ring. And, her MMA background is really great because it lends to someone who genuinely can physically move around in their space well. You know what I mean? Like, whether you like Ronda Rousey, whether you were a fan of Shayna Baszler, when you have people who are actual mat grapplers, they know how to move around in space just because they really genuinely use their physical bodies to a genuine physical limit. So when you're operating within the confines of professional wrestling, which is not to downplay what professional wrestlers do by any means, but the people just move different. And when you can get them to really adapt to a WWE wrestling system and a style of movement, when they get it, they get it. And Lola Vice gets it. And I think that she's the total package. She's got a great moveset. She looks great. She can move in the ring. She can function, and her promos aren't bad at all. As opposed to maybe somebody like Lash Legend for real. Like, we've seen Lash Legend a few times over the last few years, and I think Lash Legend is really great. But like, you got to pull the trigger on her too, dog. Like, you got to pull the trigger and bring her up.
I would have thought it's been more than past time for her.
Yeah, I agree. And when you get to that point,
I mean, bottom line is there is no bigger void to fill than this women's space on SmackDown.
Yep.
Or the women's world title space. Or the U.S. title space, because there hasn't been much going on there.
Yeah, I mean, and let's just be honest. The women's division on SmackDown and on Raw, because let's be real. The handling of the Raw women's division, I think, has generally been better, right? I think it's just generally been handled better, but they still have a depth problem. And, I'm not suggesting that you gut the NXT locker room, but man, like, you can't tell me that NXT does not have some fresh-faced talent that they have not been putting on their center stage, that they could not put them a little more in their forefront and let go of some of these women that they've got that are moonlighting currently on WWE. Because listen, honestly, at this point, Sol Ruka's ready. Oh, yeah. Zarya's ready. Like, they're ready to be on the main roster. Like, take that speed championship off of Sol Ruka, right?
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Take that speed championship off of her, but she's double belted, so it doesn't sting as much that she's holding that speed championship. But take the belts off of her and bring them up to the main roster, because listen, I avoided saying her name because we already kind of spoke about them with the tag team match with Charlotte and why is her name escaping me right? Alexa Bliss. But dude, Sol Ruka is probably, in my opinion, the most ready for the main roster call up than anyone. She just has.
If we find her a setup move for her finisher, yes.
Oh yeah, well yeah. Well, so she had to have like a setup for Soul Snatcher.
Not a good one.
Okay.
Like, it's still just, it requires people to stand there awkwardly in front of the ropes until she gets there. If we could get something to give people a reason to stumble there.
Well, I think the last match we saw that she was in, at least in my opinion, because I have the same critique that you have, right? Which is the setup for the Soul Snatcher and the Soul Snatcher itself as a move. It's so specific.
Yes.
And, there had to be a certain set of criteria, both for the opponent that's in the corner and Sol Ruka for her setup, and her execution is so very specific. But the last match I saw when she did the Soul Snatcher, I wouldn't say Randy Orton came out of nowhere, but the setup for it was not typical. And she landed it not directly in the corner, but it was kind of a bit out of the corner, which, listen, if she figures out how to do that Soul Snatcher, and I know this is specific, everyone, but bear with me here. If she can figure out how to effectively and safely do that Soul Snatcher within a 3 to 4 foot range of the corner, she's golden, right? Because they don't have to exactly be in the corner, and her setup can have a bit more versatility. But it's also one of those moves, like the last time I saw it, the execution has to be precise, right? Her inverted rotating flip, right, that she does with that is very specific. But when she's in position to do the cutter part of that Soul Snatcher, she barely has to interact with the person who is taking it, right? They just have to front bump at the right time, right? So yes, there's a timing thing, but there's not a whole lot of issue with regards to like if they don't get their timing right, the move is going to be botched and someone could be hurt. But that's also not a move that Sol Ruka, as she gets older, is going to be able to continue to do. And so I get it.
Yeah.
You do it while you can because the move is genuinely impressive to see. But I also think, damn, why don't you bring her up to the main roster so you have more time with such a unique ability and move before she can't do it anymore?
Well,
but
they kind of are.
Yeah, I guess they kind of are on the main roster for if you think about
they'll be having this tag team match Friday, I believe. So
yeah,
I guess how that goes.
I guess I just wish WWE wouldn't be so ambiguous about it, so we wouldn't have to speculate. But I guess at the end of the day, if you hear enough, I mean, does it matter if you got a title? But hey, listen, a match that did not need the title need a title on Crown Jewel Perth was the aforementioned and poetically waxed upon John Cena versus AJ Styles. John Cena defeats AJ Styles straight up and clean in a mano-a-mano finisher versus finisher versus finisher versus finisher versus finisher times 10 matchup. Now, if you are someone, and I'm just going to go and say this right now, you're fully within your rights to not like this. If you're somebody who does not, if you haven't watched this show yet, spoiler, if you're somebody who does not like people kicking out of finishers, this one is going to run you straight headfirst into the moon. But if you're somebody who just enjoys a really fun match with John Cena being peak fan service John Cena and AJ Styles serving up just as much fan service as Mr. Juan Cena, you're going to absolutely love this match. Now, Skeens has already given it a match of the year candidate position. And I am certainly not one to rain on anyone's parade with that sentiment. I thought the match was absolutely great. Obviously, Cena is going to go over because this match is in a pocket universe all its own, the John Cena retirement universe. So none of these matches hold any weight. And listen, apparently, according to AJ Styles, he barely remembers losing because he's right on to the next thing.
Nah, it wasn't too big of a deal for him.
On Raw. And listen, that's what it should have been, right? He should move right on from that. Like, it was what it was. It was an athletic contest amongst two greats. And, we officially, by the way, let me say this before I let my co-host go on poetically about this match. The announcing of Cena and AJ. It's always fun to hear Cena's, never seen 17 ring announcement. But the fact that he pulls this note out of his jorts and in a PG way, folks, out of the pocket, and he hands it to the ring announcer, Alicia Taylor. And he seems to have written a John Cena Never Seen 17-esque intro for the recently soon to be announced, soon to be retiring AJ Styles. An incredible intro for her to read.
Yes.
I thought that it was very touching. It was very cool. You could tell that AJ was not expecting that, and that may not have been something that he was clued in on that they were going to do. And it was just really cool to see a legend like John Cena acknowledge someone as legendary as AJ Styles as well. And it just set the tone for this match to be something that was just incredibly, incredibly fun. Skeens, the spotlight is on you. The floor is yours.
I mean, we talked about it at the top, but it was just fun. It was what it needed to be. It was seeing them go through all the nods and, just the homages to all the different finishers. It's fun to do that sometimes. It doesn't need to happen all the time, but two guys this good that are this over and respected by the crowd can pull it off. And AJ doing TNA stuff and TNA callbacks, it worked. It worked. I'm glad it happened. The crowd loved it. Like I said, it was cool seeing the sea of John Cena shirts there in Perth. And yeah, I'm not going to go on about it too long, but
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. It was definitely the high point of the show for me.
Yeah. Look, the minions certainly live down under. And, from what I hear, they were not paid to wear those shirts either. That means that the Cena merch sales that night were over the moon. Like, I can't imagine you had that many shirts on hand for people to buy. Like, I've been to live events before. We went to WrestleMania. Now, I didn't go to the merch stand at WrestleMania. I dared not walk close to those lines. But I cannot imagine that they had this many Seth Rollins shirts printed up for WrestleMania 40, just in concessions waiting to be purchased. You know what I mean? Like, there were so many yellow shirts there. You would have thought they were handing them out for free. It was nuts.
It literally was just a sea of yellow.
It was a sea of yellow.
Like when they first showed the crowd at the beginning of the show, I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, oh, those are all Cena shirts. But just cool to see that for a performer that really deserves that. In my opinion.
Well, and it was just cool to see them. It was cool to see them performing in Australia because, Australia shows come along every so often. And, before maybe like 2021, 2022, they didn't do a whole lot of Australia shows. Like, if you watch anything that Rhea Ripley is in where she talks about her history growing up in Australia, you'll know that, like, before, there were decades in between times when WWE came to Australia. And so to see the fans just so exuberant Friday, Saturday, Monday, like, they really made the show better than what the show was. 'Cause I think the show was great, but when you have a crowd who's really into it and they just are really fired up and all night, when Cena and Styles had this match, they genuinely had the crowd on the edge of their seat, on their feet, the entire match. I mean, when we get to Rhea and Io versus the Kabuki Warriors, I legit was thinking, Skeena, okay, so unfortunately, this tag match is going to be the match that's going to suffer from, like, the crowd fatigue, right? Like, they blew their entire load on Cena and Styles match, and they're not going to have any juice left for, this tag match. But man, when Rhea came out, they blew the roof off that place again. And it was constant the whole night. Like, the Australian crowd, dude, they were just on fire. I just wish they pulled it back a little bit for the post show because they were just, do you talk about hijacking a post show? I don't think I've ever seen it.
Watch the post show, so
bro, you listen. Every time somebody starts talking, there was like some Aussie chant that would start in 5-second intervals. Like, it was when Rhea was out there, she couldn't barely get through a statement. She could barely get through a statement without the crowd drawing up another chant. When Seth was out there after his win and he was talking, he could barely get a word in edgewise. And dude, listen, if you listened to this podcast before, you already know how I feel about fans hijacking the show. I love you as fans. I'm a fan too, but I'm going to say this to you because I'm a fan, and I would say this to myself. Stay in your lane. Like, have fun, enjoy yourself. Just because the WWE allows you to do something doesn't mean you should. And I get it. You're enjoying yourself. You're having fun. But man, fans can ruin the product when they make the show about themselves. And that, to me, is what happened at that post show. They just made the show about themselves and to just chant and chant and chant some more and just overtake the entire show. And I'm just like, dude, that's why they start doing press conferences away from the fans so they can get their product out. And, but anyway, John Cena topples AJ Styles in this classic versus classic match. We've already talked about AJ Styles and his TNA ring gear. I thought it was freaking amazing. He even had his little choker necklace on, which I'm like, the fact that people used to wear those is crazy to me. But he had it on. It was just peak vintage AJ. I loved it. I think he should stick with the shorts for the rest of his run because I think that it suits him and it's a change up from his normal, pants style. And it might be a nice little nod for his, final year, which he did officially announce that, right? That next year was going to be his last?
I don't know if it's official, but it's pretty official.
I thought I heard I thought I heard him say it somewhere.
It's out there. He said it. I don't know. Official to me means like, okay, WWE has put out something. There's a post and an accompanying graphic. That hasn't happened, but it's very well acknowledged that that next year is going to probably be the last for AJ Styles.
Yeah. I could have sworn, I think I heard it on WWE programming.
Yeah, I
like
think
somebody said
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean it's all but official minus like the graphic and stuff. But yeah, I think if next year is his last, let this man do what he wants, let him have fun. Yeah, I think they said it because he was coming to the ring and they were saying something about like he wants to spend more time with his family and he wants to spend more time with his family and go out on top. Which hey, I can respect that. So after that barn burner, that page turner, that slobber knocker of a match, we get Rio versus the Kabuki Warriors, which also was a really, really great match. When you have these competitors in the ring, dude, it's really hard to have a bad match. I mean, I've heard somebody else say it. I think it might have been Michael Cole. And listen, despite the fact it's coming from Michael Cole, I 1000% agree with the sentiment. I think that Io Sky is pound for pound the best female wrestler in the world. I think her game is flawless, but I've said this before on this show. I think her game is flawless. I think everything she does is peak, and I think that she does it very well. Even the things that look like they are out of control, her flying out of the ring seemingly head first, right? She just lands it. She does everything well. After Friday, was it Friday Night Smackdown? When she had the match against Kyrie and she took that nasty power bomb to the edge of the ring.
I thought that was last Raw. But
was it Raw? It might have been last Raw. It might have been last Raw.
Yeah.
Which boy, that was, listen, let's not continue to do those. Like, let's just dial that back.
Yeah.
But I genuinely think that there's nobody who I've seen, particularly in WWE, both NXT, SmackDown, or Raw, that is more well-rounded than Io Sky. She just does everything right. And she just has the fans' adoration, and she is just crispy in the ring. Her moves look great. She sells like no one else. And I think she's just pound for pound the best female wrestler that the company has, and possibly in, the world of professional wrestling. And then you've got Asuka, who's freaking great. You've got Rhea, who's freaking great. And listen, I give Kairi Sane all the credit in the world. I think that she is better than I maybe have given her credit for before. And maybe she has just been the wrong piece of the puzzle in the wrong space at the wrong time when people get injured. But needless to say, this was an awesome match. Skeener, your thoughts on Rio defeating the Kabuki Warriors and where this leads with them going forward, particularly into Raw.
So, loved the match and really enjoyed kind of the finish for how it plays into the story and kind of more of what we saw on Monday. And the most interesting part of this for me has always been this dynamic with Asuka and Kairi, at least at this point, and how domineering and controlling she is. And kind of like we hinted at last week, is there going to be a tipping point where Kairi is tired of the abuse that started out just verbal, but now has turned physical in multiple ways? And last Monday with Asuka shoving her out there into a match she didn't want to take against her friend Io that she still wanted to bring back into the family. Then Saturday she kind of, sacrifices Kairi to take the loss. Then on Monday we get Asuka just slapping the taste out of Kyrie's mouth before her match. And yeah, the whole thing's kind of like, okay, is Kyrie eventually going to break away? But seeing the crowd react to Rhea, that was always going to be cool. We already know how much of a superstar she is all over the world, let alone in her home country. And just another good match on a show full of 5 of them. 5 out of 5. But really the high point was the finish of that match and how they did it and how that led into what we saw Monday.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And listen, Kyrie absolutely took the bullet for Asuka. The move that she ate was supposed to be for Asuka. And that was what led into Monday, where we had the backstage segment with the Kabuki Warriors. And Kyrie shows this nasty bruise that's on her forehead that, she took for Asuka. And she made it clear that she took it from Asuka. And then Asuka immediately slaps the taste out of her mouth and just in no way respects the sacrifice that she made for her. All she cares about is that they lost and it was Kyrie's fault. Now, needless to say, Rhea is about to riptide Asuka through the announce table on Monday, and here comes Kyrie with the kendo stick. And she starts wailing on Rhea, and she is just celebrating enthusiastically. But I think it's not because she did this to Rhea, but she's celebrating because Asuka approves. And
yes,
and I think that's going to be the catalyst that eventually leads to her realizing that Asuka doesn't really care about her. And I think it's going to probably be what we talked about before, where you're going to have Io getting to Kyrie and letting her know that, hey, look, this ain't love. And, you don't treat the people that you care about this way. And, on a contextual level with regards to this story, she can also teach Kyrie that Rhea, though they were opponents that turned into allies, that turned into rivals, that turned into friends, they can be just as much family to you as the people who you believe are your kin. And, it's not really about the blood that you share. It's more so about, the people that care. And Asuka doesn't care about you. And it's going to be a really great story to tell because this has been a great story to watch so far. They have been doing a great job at this telenovela, story within WWE. And these women are literally hitting it out of the park. So, where they go next, I am very interested to see because, the Rhea and Io versus Kabuki Warriors match at Crown Jewel Perth should essentially be the blow off to the tag team portion of this, right? So if you get Asuka and Rhea, are we getting Kyrie and Io? Because that seems like that would be the natural place for that to go, right?
I still think we've got to do a stop where it does. I feel like this story and the Kyrie involvement and is she always going to default to Asuka, or is she going to kind of realize she's being treated like crap and rebel? I feel like that has to come to a head, or should at least right now, in a match that Asuka is wrestling for the title against Io. I feel like that's the perfect place to have that ultimate moment where Kyrie has to make that decision. So I think we're still on the road to that, because if we're going to have that moment, I don't see how you make it more meaningful and have more gravity than doing it. And she has to make the decision, essentially. Is she going to help Asuka win the title by nefarious means, or is she going to stand up for herself? I think that's the best way to do this. We'll see if they do. But that's where my focus and my mind still tells me we're going with all this.
Yeah. I think they do it without the title. In fact, I think they do it in a one-on-one match between Rhea Ripley and, well, no, I think maybe you do it in a one-on-one match between Asuka.
Because we've already had Asuka and Rhea, because it main evented Raw a couple weeks ago.
But it seems like that's what they're angling towards again, right? No, have we had Io and Asuka one-on-one?
No, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're gonna have that for the title, and I think that's where Kairi has to pick her side, essentially.
So you think we're gonna hold this feud long enough to last through Stephanie Vaquer's championship run, and then her drop it back to Io?
Maybe not.
I think you can do this. I think you can do exactly what you said, which I think is exactly what they should do.
Yeah.
I just think you can do it without the title, because I don't think the title is necessary to raise the stakes on this. And that's one of the things that I think you and I have been preaching since the beginning of this podcast, right? Is the stories make for the big dramatic moments, right? Not the belt. And if you tell the story right, you don't need the championship. And likewise, when you're looking at Tiffany Stratton, right? The strap don't make the story great.
Yeah, you're right. That's not making us care anymore.
That ain't making us care anymore.
Us care less about the belt.
There you go. And so I think that, like, for this, I think that they're already doing a great storytelling arc right here. And when it doesn't revolve around the title, and nothing more apropos than, like, back, in the early days when we did the trial of Charlotte Flair. Right? You don't have to have the title around these things. And sometimes the title can distract and it can obstruct what really should be happening here, particularly when it comes to, like, the fans' discourse, right? Because if they believe that we shouldn't be giving the title to Io again so soon, right? Or Rhea shouldn't be orbiting, like, okay, now we're having another conversation that's taking away from the awesomeness that is this story. You know what I mean? So if it was me, I would let this story cook without the title. And let's just keep doing this and get these really incredible, savory, juicy character beats, right?
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? To kind of happen.
And then I do want to say this and put this on record.
Yeah.
My prediction right now is that we're going to see weeks and weeks and weeks, maybe not and weeks, but we're going to see weeks of Asuka treating Kairi like crap. And the big moment is going to set up for Kairi to turn on Asuka, and she's not going to. I feel like that just seems too good to pass up, at least to me, to lead everything that way and then just have her just, keep the Kabuki Warriors together.
So I could see that. I was thinking about it as you said it. And I thought to myself, well, where does Kairi go if she leaves Asuka, right? Because, despite all the good things I've said, and this is not me necessarily speaking ill of Kairi, but I think
because we can send the fans to a back episode if they want to hear that.
Yeah, I guess you can go rewind and check another episode if you really want to catch me bad-mouthing Kairi. But I genuinely like Kairi, but anyway. So I think she is the person who benefits. She's the one who tangentially benefits the most from this entire story. I think everyone is benefiting from this story, right? But I think that Kairi, if I had to pick someone who I think is probably benefiting the most from this story, it's Kairi, because she's getting elements added to her that did not exist in her orbit before, right? We've seen Asuka be nefarious before, and we're getting to see her turn it up to 11 here, right? We've seen the dynamic between Rhea and Io. We've literally seen that play out this entire year, right? And so seeing this story continue to evolve from them is the natural next step. Kairi is the person who, before all this, was the pirate princess and the other member of Damage Control, right? So she is the one who's getting the most benefit from this. This whole character arc is centered around the abuse of Kairi. And I think it's going to benefit her greatly. But when you think about the idea of, like, what happens to her when she separates from Asuka, like, I don't think you're going to get Kairi in a really solid championship title run, whether it's mid-card or top of the card. I just don't think that's going to happen for her. So where would she go? unless you're going to do what we've done with some of the other women who have been on the top for quite a while and give them some shine in some other, in some other tiers of the card, maybe Io and Kyrie tag for a while. I don't see why you do that because Io is just phenomenal as a solo artist. But yeah, I agree with you. I think probably the smartest thing to do would be to swerve the audience. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right?
Right.
Like,
I just think the Kabuki Warriors is a good thing. It's a good pairing. It always has been. We don't need to break them up.
I agree.
Even if there's a feel-good story to do it. I mean, wouldn't it be nice we'll see how it develops, but Kabuki Warriors versus Charlotte and Bliss, that sells tickets for me. Puts my butt in the seat. But
agreed.
Now we're fantasy booking as we always do.
As we always do. This is what people tune in for. This is why this is number 196 out of 200 of the pro wrestling podcast in the United States. So we've got our final match of Crown Jewel Perth. Seth freaking Rollins and his watch versus Cody Rhodes for the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. I thought that this match, for me, was the match of the night. I thought that there was so much riding on Seth needing to win this match. And like we stated before, this was certainly the match that they put the most story build behind. And so, all of the stakes were there and they just needed to deliver a match that, lived up to what was being foreshadowed. And in all respects, brother, I think they absolutely nailed it. And particularly in light of what we know happens on Monday, which we're not going to, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to bury the lead here because we've been talking about everything that's been happening on Friday and Monday along with Crown Jewel Perth. There's no better story to interweave in with Crown Jewel Perth's finale than what happened on Monday. Before we get to that, Skeener, your thoughts on Cody Rhodes taking the big L to Seth freaking Rollins at Crown Jewel Perth?
Again, this is one that I'll just say that obviously really good match. I'm not going to go down beat for beat, move for move, but loved where they got to and how they did it with the finish involving the old the watch.
The watch-a-rooney.
And yeah. And that was great. And using that, and like we said, Seth really had to win this. Obviously, I definitely didn't have anywhere on my radar, what happened on Raw happening after Seth wins. I think That's what made it so surprising and shocking. And it's interesting to me that they picked now and right after this win to kind of pull the trigger. But yeah. I'm intrigued, and it's definitely, I think we both thought, and we thought there was a longer run for the Vision in the cards, but at least in the form including Seth Rollins, that is
yes.
That is absolutely not the case. And we'll get to that. But yeah, the way that match played out, to me, as good as it was on Saturday, Monday made it better. And
Agreed.
It made Monday better because you would never see that coming after Seth wins by himself, obviously a little underhandedly, but without the help to do that. And
Agreed.
It's a shocking moment that obviously we talked about, probably wish wasn't spoiled for us.
Man, yes.
It is what it is.
Listen, I cannot tell you how pissed off I was that this got spoiled for me, because very rarely, and listen, I was mad that it got spoiled. I was even more mad, Skeener, after I saw the segment, because the segment was so damn good.
I would have never seen it coming.
I would have never seen that coming. And we've talked before about how, very rarely do you get moments, right, where you are, as a wrestling fan specifically, genuinely caught off guard. And the last time I got caught off guard with something, I wasn't really happy with what I got caught off guard with. And that was when Brock Lesnar showed up at SummerSlam. But this was genuinely awesome. And the fact that the moment got robbed because of spoilers on the internet and videos that came out before people who are not YouTubers have a time to sit down and watch Raw, it was disgusting to me. But I had to swallow it down because I absolutely wanted to watch the segment. And the segment did not disappoint. It's just always going to be tinged with this, like, what if I saw that without being spoiled. But, man, listen, we here now. So let's go through this real quick. So Seth Rollins defeats Cody Rhodes for the Men's Crown Jewel Championship. They have what I thought was the match of the night. I think that the storytelling was really great. Both men, really pulled their weight, as you would expect them to do on this level, and particularly when you're dealing with Cody and you're dealing with Seth, right? And this match is going back and forth, and at one point, Seth starts to wonder how it is that he's going to get this victory over. I'm not sure if he actually tweaked his shoulder on that coast-to-coast headbutt, but he was definitely selling it, at least. Like, that left arm was damn near dead. But, I'm looking at this and he's like, how's he going to do it? And he grabs that watch. He decides he's not going to use it. And Cody begins to get the upper hand. And then at some point, Seth grabs that watch. Cody grabs him from behind. It looks like he's about to try and set up for another crossroads. The ref gets bumped to the ground, and which honestly was a really good looking bump. It didn't look super intentional, which lent to the gravity of what happened next, which is with Cody Rhodes pulling Seth from behind, Seth just cold cocks this guy with the watch wrapped around his fist in his jaw. Cody drops like a sack of bricks. Then Seth Rollins delivers the stomp for the 1, 2, 3. Seth Rollins is your new WWE Men's Crown Jewel Champion. He does not want to talk to Jackie Redmond in the ring. He's going to say his own piece. And Seth immediately goes into self-aggrandizing and overplaying his hand and the fact that he is the best in the world, that he's the best in the ring, that he doesn't need anybody to do this. And, he's the greatest. This followed Skeens on the post show where he did this whole thing about not needing anybody's help, that he beat Cody all on his own. And then when the crowd was doing all the chanting that I was talking about, he ended his segment with standing up and berating the fans. And it was like honestly, like a minute and a half of him berating the fans. And they tried to play him off. They played his music, right? And Big E and Rosenberg and Jackie, I believe it was Jackie that was on the post show, they all looked confused as to why Seth was still out there. But he was berating the fans. It was a great beat, dude. And it led right into Monday with the level of self-aggrandizing arrogance that this guy was exuding at the top of Raw. And man, listen, the scene backstage seemed like it perfectly juxtaposed the scenes that happened in front of the crowd in the ring. Because backstage, he's telling the boys, aside from the birth of my child and marrying my wife, having this moment of seeing you guys grow is great, right? But then when he gets in the ring, it's all about him. And now he doesn't need Paul. He doesn't need Breaker. He didn't need Bronson. He does this all by himself. He's with these people because he wants them here, not because he needs them. Now, I don't think that that's necessarily the reason on its own why the events that we're about to talk about happen, but it certainly preceded them. So
but didn't in the opening, because he opened the show, didn't he kind of talk? He certainly talked himself up, but he talked up
did.
the other three,
he did
pretty good as well.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's which kind of made it, which makes me want to get to next week and find out the $1 million question of why.
Yeah.
But
and listen,
yeah,
I think the why will be awesome. But if the why, Skeener, is as simple as what they kind of laid out at the end of Raw, after the little bug comes up at the end of the ring, at the end of the match, and CM Punk has been adequately crushed with the tsunami and speared and shoveled out of the ring. Braun Breaker, while Seth is celebrating, just casually backs up to the corner.
Yeah.
Casually revs his engine and then just proceeds to run Seth Rollins over. And to the shock of both Paul Heyman and Bronson Reed, this loose cannon just destroyed their leader. The best part to me is looking at their faces. And it's like, okay, so the story we're telling here is that Braun Breaker just went rogue.
Yeah.
He just went rogue and just assassinated the leader. And he stands up from, the bloody carcass. And then he just walks over to Bronson Reed and he's like, you need to make a choice. Mm-hmm. You rolling with me or you rolling with him? And
I think he said you're either with me or you're not, is what he said in the moment. But you
need to make a choice. Either you're with me or you're not.
Paul's lips right after he did it, and Paul sells it so well, and he says, like, what the fuck did you just do?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, the way those two sold that it made it even better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, they sold it great because they're all opportunists. And so, Bronson Reed, who's been tagging with Braun Breaker, the way I saw it in that moment, it's like, okay, one of your I forget what they're called. When you're like one of your soldier in arms, right? One of your brothers in arms just pulled rank and shot down the general, right? And he's looking in stunned silence because he's like, did that just happen? And Breaker's just like, hey, you need to make a choice. You with me or you're not? Mm-hmm. And he thinks about it for a second. And then he's like, no, I guess I'm rolling with my brother. And then he just proceeds to destroy Seth too. Paul looks completely lost and a loss for words, yet he's muttering things like you said, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like this is mutiny of the highest caliber, right? And then Braun steps over and he grabs him by the lapels. Mm-hmm. Paul,
so good.
You need to make a choice. You with me or you with him? And Paul, being the mastermind that he is, but also the opportunist, sees the writing on the wall immediately. Okay, this is a usurping of the throne. This guy is taking over the top spot. He is the future. Why not be the right now? And all of that computation happens in Paul's mind in like 5 seconds. And he starts to reluctantly raise their arms. But then when he gets to the top of raising his arms, he realizes that he's making the right decision. And then he's smiling like he's all in. And I just thought, man, what a master stroke. The dude is the future. Why not him? Why not have him be the now? I love, and this is not my idea. Somebody else said this, but this idea is the same. It's just the wording, right? He's the future. Why do we need to wait till the future if he is the guy right now? And WWE has always kind of done that with people who they feel like are the next up. They put them in the pecking order, right? And you wait your turn. And I just like the fact that from a storyline perspective, Braun's like, hey, screw waiting. Like, I'm not waiting for it to be my turn. And maybe I don't like his vision. Maybe the vision of this company needs to be my vision. And that's when I say that, I was thinking about what you said before about how you didn't see like the vision collapsing so soon. I was thinking to myself, well, maybe Seth's vision is collapsing. Maybe someone else's vision is emerging. And, the faction still remains. It's just they have kicked their leader out, a la Judgment Day and Edge, and now the vision is going to take on a different tenor. But Skeener, my friend, your thoughts on what is probably one of the best turns that we got spoiled on in recent memory.
Masterful in that I very, very few saw it coming. I saw a lot of the dirt sheets chimed in on Tuesday and said, "Yep, we've known this. This has been the plan."
Sure you did.
Suspiciously, no one talked about it beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just a heck of a time to do it, and we'll see, because everything seemed like Seth was at his highest moment. He had finally vanquished his foe he couldn't for so long.
Yeah.
And he was on top of the world. And for that moment, for him to, for the leader to be stabbed in the back the way he has stabbed others in the back over the year, it throws everything we thought might happen and how those things would happen into total disarray. Because let's not forget, in all this, the Vision's going to go on, but Seth Rollins has a title match with CM Punk. And CM Punk's not going to care that, oh, poor Seth. That's not going to wait. So now Seth goes from, in the span of 2 minutes to close the show, from on top of the world, and has just beat down his greatest nemesis and his next challenger to, oh no. Now, my group, my safety net, my insurance policy just turned on me. I've got to deal with that. And I've got my greatest nemesis with a title shot. And how all that's going to play out is just, I think, going to be really fun to watch.
Oh, I agree.
As well as the piece, as we've always talked about, how much Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker have been developing. Well, now they're the guys. I mean, so let's see where it goes. And it's something I didn't see coming, but I think is going to be so great.
Oh,
and
I agree.
I don't have a lot more to say because I don't know what it's going to be, but the moment we got was just so unexpected and so good, and is just kind of epitomizes why we love to watch wrestling and invest in these stories the way we do, because when something hits this good, it hits real good.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. These are the moments that, as wrestling fans, we talk about for years to come. And I agree with you 1,000%, man. This heel turn, I think pulling the trigger now was probably the smart move to do. Not that I felt like the Vision was running its course, but in a way, what else could you do with the Vision? And I'm not saying that that I saw this coming, because I certainly did not. But when you think about it, right? Seth has defeated Cody. He's already world heavyweight champion, right? And now he's defeated the person who he could not defeat before. And so now you go into where he does title defenses and the Vision is getting involved. We've already done that. Been there, right? We've seen all the things that the Vision is going to do under Seth Rollins' leadership. And I think that pulling the trigger now, very, very similar, in my opinion, to what they have been doing with Jey Uso, which is don't wait for the yeet chants to run their course. You know what I mean? It's let it build to its natural crescendo, and then let's move to the next thing. And let's keep the momentum that is around the character moving into the next character beat, and not allow something that could potentially sour to go sour, right? As great as the Bloodline story was with Roman on top for the 4+ years that he was champion, the reason why that's so great, partly is because the storytelling was phenomenal, but partly too because that's an anomaly. We don't get storytelling like that very often. And we don't get things that stay in the top of people's minds from a top pick standpoint that often. And even then, if you really think about it, and we're not waxing poetically about the Bloodline story, there were ups and downs. There were ebbs and flows. There were times that the fans got annoyed with Roman winning all the time. And look, the interference, the whole black hoodie, that became a running trope that some people just genuinely hated. But, when it's all said and done and the smoke is cleared, we look back on things with rose-colored goggles. And I think that the Bloodline story arc is no exception. That is not me taking anything away from the greatness that storyline was, because it was phenomenal. But that just is the reality. And I think in this scenario with the Vision, we're just pulling this Band-Aid off before we get to the point where we're in redundancy. And we're doing the same thing that every faction does when they're heels and they're on top. And then you eventually get to the Triple H thumbs down and turning on, what was it, Randy in Evolution. But, we don't need to get to that point, and we can do something different. And this is genuinely different. I did not expect this. And I don't remember the last time I saw a faction turn on its leader this quickly. Like, even the Judgment Day lasted with Edge longer than the Vision did with Seth at the helm. But I'm just so interested. Go ahead.
Yeah, the biggest, it's great for what it is, but what I never saw coming out of it's just the timing makes it so good because of what it does to the Seth Rollins character, where
agreed,
he goes straight from being on top of the world, and he's been world champion before, but this about as high as it gets. He vanquished Cody Rhodes. His wife's a champion. He's leading his faction. His oracle is the former wise man for his other biggest nemesis. He's just laid out his biggest nemesis, who he stole the title from. He's standing over his fallen body, gloating about how he is. And at this moment is when everything he sowed, he's now reaping it. In that he brought in these mercenaries, and the one goes rogue and turns on him. And what that's going to do, and the situations and how it's going to play out for Seth Rollins, is what I'm really looking forward to. Not to say I'm not looking forward to Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker stepping up to the forefront and possibly leading this faction on their own and doing whatever they do. But where Seth fits and where he falls to and how he deals with, like I said, reaping what he's sown, I think is going to be the real magic here.
Hey, I don't disagree. And listen, the man was already in a fragile state to begin with. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like, let's not forget that this dude was obsessed with having to beat Cody before this whole match even transpired at Crown Jewel Perth. And so to have him at such an incredible high, does not negate the fact that his fragility is still there. And it hasn't been long enough for the cracks that are in that glass to solidify. And this just shatters everything. And I agree with you. It's going to be so interesting to see what version of Seth Rollins we get next Monday. It almost sucks that we got to wait till next Monday.
Right.
And
to
that's
see
the
mark
what comes
of
of this.
when wrestling is good is when you're like, man, I can't wait till the next show to find out where this goes.
Yeah, I agree. It makes it difficult to wait another week. And that's just when wrestling, is at its peak and it's doing what it's supposed to do. So, listen, hats off to WWE, because when they get their stories right, like they get their stories right. You know what I mean? And they knock it out of the park. And, the hope is that going into the end of the year, going into Survivor Series, that we just get some really great master strokes that set up the road to WrestleMania in the way that is going to be a phenomenal card in the making, because we're almost there. You know what I mean? And we ain't got a lot of PLEs left on the ticker for this year. And certainly
we just got one PLE and two Saturday nights main events.
Yeah, so
right?
we're winding it down. We're winding it down. And so you need to start setting some things up for January. And this one by far just opens the door to some really interesting things, you know what I'm saying, to go down. Because like we said before. In fact, we didn't even have to talk about this week because we didn't get anything storyline wise with this, right? But Randy Orton was mentioned, right, last week by Paul Heyman within the realm of Cody Rhodes and wanting that title. And we were just talking about how you should pull the trigger on this while you still have the time, right? So, I mean, if we were to get anything like a Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton at Mania, or a Roman Reigns versus, God, I don't even know, because he's helping the Usos with their story stuff right now, but you'd got to think he'd have some sort of one-on-one dance partner, right? It's like, God, do we get Roman versus Seth this year? Like, this story with Seth right now is so all-encompassing, right, that I can't even see that far into the future.
Yeah,
where he's at.
We're too far away for me to say anything with any level of confidence.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely speaking, and we got some people who are floating around the peripheral of a lot of these championship scenes that are also big players, like Jey Uso, like LA Knight. You know what I mean? Punk is right there on the cusp of winning his championship at Mania.
Yeah, he's got a title shot.
Yeah.
Here probably at that next Saturday night's main event, since he's on the poster for it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the most immediate question when it comes to a title picture, right, is does Punk go into the new year as champ? Like, you know what I mean? Because he's getting a title shot, and with Seth at his weakest right now, like, I don't see any more of a peak opportunity storyline-wise to put that belt onto Punk and drive Seth into the next stage of whatever evolution he's going to go through. So, you know, look, this is when wrestling is peak, ladies and gentlemen. It's when you do stuff right. And when you tell the stories right, when you invest in the idea that characters matter, that stories matter, you get for a product like this, where you get people like Andrew Skeens and myself talking about wrestling in such a great way, because the product that you're putting forth is top-notch grade A excellence. Please, WWE, keep doing what you're doing in this vein. And I don't think you have a wide opportunity to miss for the rest of the year. And you ain't got but 3 big ones left. So let's make them count. Man, what a great week of wrestling. And I am entirely pleased with what we got. Skeener, your pick for the week. What was your big thing from Friday Night Smackdown or Crown Jewel Perth or Monday Night Raw? I think I might know what it is, but let me have it.
I just think it reinforces how great and how powerful unpredictability is in this sphere. And because that's what we just harped on and what we just talked about. That's my takeaway. And there comes a point where you can overdo it. We don't need to swerve everyone all the time, but saving the shot and pulling it out, like you said, before maybe things run their course and before it gets necessary, always seems to pay off. And unpredictability creates magic. And that's what we've kind of said throughout our entire run here, is that all these stories are the best when there's 3-4 different avenues to go down and we don't know what road the car is going to travel on. And I think we've kind of gotten to a point there again. And I'm very pleased with that.
Agreed. So for
what
me,
you got for us?
For me, man, it centers around the Seth Rollins Vision heel turn. Well, they're already heels, so it's just a turn. But striking while the iron is hot. When you do this correctly and you strike at the exact right time, man, the resonance from that ring is like nothing you've ever seen. And this right here is just an example of striking while the iron is hot perfectly, because it was very well timed. I think that they saw a window of opportunity. They see how much of a magnetic presence Braun Breaker is. Seth Rollins is incredible at his job, And you've got all of these great pieces together. Paul Heyman, Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, Seth Rollins. It's just a cacophony of creative excellence. And it's hard to imagine that this was not the vision, no pun intended, from the very beginning. Because oftentimes you don't pivot into something this great, right? This is a well-laid, well-orchestrated plan, right? And hats off to setting a plan and executing effectively. Because when you do, it lends to moments like these where fans like us go crazy over professional wrestling. Folks, thank you for showing up for the 30th birthday of the Lariat Lounge. I didn't realize it was the 30th, so I didn't bring a cake. I didn't bring candles. But we will get the numbers straight when you look at the podcast and you're looking for the latest episode of the Lariat Lounge. We always appreciate you coming out, hanging out with us. Skeener, please let everyone here know where they can catch one of the best podcasts in the United States. And it's not just me saying that. A lot of people are saying that. Where can they hear us, Andrew Skeens?
You've got 31 big episodes of the Lariat Lounge up on all your favorite podcast platforms, be it Apple, Spotify, YouTube, everywhere you get your podcasts. We've got content for you coming at you every week, once a week at least. We're also over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast, throwing up posts to make sure you know whenever the latest episode drops. And as always, the inbox is open over at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. So you can tell us what you are liking, disliking, loving, hating, anything about wrestling, about the show, about anything in general. We're happy to hear it. Just love interacting with you all, so please never be afraid to come hop in the lounge with us.
Absolutely. And if you're listening to us and you're loving what we're doing, please give us 5 stars. Give us a positive rating on any platform that you're listening. It's a little thing for you. It's free, but for us, it means a lot and it helps out a ton. So we thank you. We appreciate you in advance. And please come back and check us out next week, where we'll be right here in the lounge talking about all things WWE and professional wrestling within that space. From your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens, this has been the latest edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.